Good day. On December 25th, 1991, the Soviet Union dissolved. Out of the dissolution of the Soviet Union, 15 countries were formed. The Soviet Union, we should remember, was a communist country and it lasted for 69 years. These 15 countries all sought different kinds of destinies. Some wanted to affiliate with the West, some like Latvia and Estonia and Lithuania affiliated with the West. Some also wanted to continue to be within the orbit of Russia. But one thing was common. Many of them were finding a problem regarding the demarcation of their borders. And also, they also started to have problems with some ethnicities within their countries that wanted self-determination. And this led to extremism and some form of terrorism. They were having a lot of problems dealing with this, the militant way of some of the ethnicities in their countries. Beyond that also, some of them didn't want Western influence, and because of that, they came together to form first the Shanghai Five. This was in 1996. They formed the Shanghai Five after a meeting in Shanghai, and these earlier countries were China, Russia, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan. They formed the Shanghai Five and expanded in 2001 to include Uzbekistan. They also expanded their remits and the motivation that formed their organization. Now they were talking more about regional integration so that they will have a commonality in interest. They also talked about establishing stronger diplomatic ties among themselves. But most of all, they also aspired and dreamt of a new world order. Several years now, specifically since 1996 to 2025, we can say that today, that last aspiration of a new world order has been attained. The Shanghai Corporation Organization can be said that is holding today, that started at the 31st of August 2025, can be said that the dawn of the multipolar world and the change in the world as we know it. Good day and welcome to my channel, Ebima Amungo's Perspective on Global Affairs. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe. If you have any comments regarding the views I expressed in this video, please put them in the comment section. Do well to like and share. Today, the world has been awash with images of what is going on in China. The Chinese are putting up a show. President Xi Jinping is putting up a show for the whole world to see. And today we have had images that show the new reality that the world finds itself in. This reality includes the Shanghai Corporation Organization. The Shanghai Corporation Organization today now has this set of members: Belarus, China, India, Iran, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Pakistan, Russia, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan. And they have quite a number of countries that are observer countries. Countries like Armenia, Azerbaijan, Bahrain, Cambodia, Egypt, Kuwait, Laos, Maldives, Myanmar, Nepal, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Sri Lanka, Turkey, and UAE. They are just observers. Meanwhile, some other countries are in dialogue with the organization to be members, and that include Afghanistan and Mongolia. This year also, some other countries are attending as guests. The list of the reach of the countries visiting is quite extensive, as this map shows. Even some countries are coming in from Africa. We have Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Cuba, Congo, Cambodia, China, Myanmar, Malaysia, Mongolia, Maldives, Nepal, DPRK, Pakistan, Russia, Serbia, Slovakia, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Laos, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Vietnam, Indonesia, and Iran. Many of the presidents, or all the presidents, 26 presidents are supposed to have attended, but 25 are there. The Indonesian president is challenged, so he has a problem with in his country now. So he was not there. But the images we've been seeing from this meeting is one that defines the way the world has really changed. Here we see the president of China with the president of Russia the president of China and his wife. He is the host, and he has all this coterie of um, presidents and prime ministers, leaders of their countries in attendance. We also have a lot of bilaterals, meetings of countries that are reshaping and redefining new realities in the multipolar world we find ourselves. New cleavages and new formations, new alliances. Pashinyan here is meeting with Modi. Modi, both are in the orbit of America, one being pushed away from America because of the tariffs, and one getting closer to America because of what's going on in Russia and the Caucasus. Pashinyan also, in this case here also, we see Erdogan. Erdogan is very critical to what's going on in the world now. We see Erdogan with Pashinyan. These two are forming a greater alliance in the Caucasus. You will not think so because Armenia and Turkey had a problem generations back, and in fact, Armenia continues to accuse Turkey of a genocide of Armenians. But because of changing geopolitical realities, we see Erdogan, one who has been slippery in the case of geopolitics, looking after the interests mainly of his country, here now having a new relationship, a strong one, a new bond with Armenia that have for several years and traditionally been an enemy of Turkey. This One of the sidelines was this meeting between President Putin and President Pashinyan. Pashinyan has been very angry with Putin since 2020 when they had the Nagorno-Karabakh war. And after the Nagorno-Karabakh war, they felt that because they were part of the CSTO, Collective Security Treaty Organization, it was expected that Russia should have supported Armenia during its fight with Azerbaijan over the Nagorno-Karabakh enclave. Russia stood back, did not play an active role because of some allegations that part had already been considered by Armenia to Azerbaijan. And but Pashinyan held it against Russia. And since that war, he has slowly moved away from the Russian orbit and is now very close to the American orbit and the Western orbit. So him and Putin met, and Putin was telling him that it's quite a long time they had met over so many issues to discuss, and they did have a bilateral among themselves. This is the family picture that took place there. You can see very significantly there, Putin right next to Xi Jinping, and Modi also amongst quite close to the center of activity there. It was a good one, all these countries, and these are the images the West is seeing. The collective of this collective, including most of Asia, Southeast Asia, and the Asian subcontinent, it just shows that this is where really economically and politically things are flowing now. After the meeting, during the meeting, China and India had a bilateral. This bilateral is very significant. This bilateral is significant to the extent that it may shape or it may add one new block to the power of the orbit that is now opposing the Western pole. This orbit here now, in this meeting, China, Xi Jinping called for better cooperation between India and China, that there should be a dance between the dragon and the elephant, and that there will be a powerful team together. Modi, on his part, said the two of them, being responsible for 2.8 million people in the world, it is imperative they form partnership and they built out of respect and mutual understanding. It's a powerful picture that may cause a lot of worries back there in Washington and in the halls in the Western countries, because Modi has been forced to build better relationship with China, despite the fact that they've had almost 5 years of conflict since there was an incident at the border. China and India do have an existing border problem that has extended and created bad blood within them. Modi has been playing a fine game. His domestic audience really don't like the Chinese, and They use all the media and all the available tools of propaganda against them. Of course, we also know that most of those propaganda is pushed by the Western organizations that are there, but it had created bad blood, and there's this bad blood. Modi is, as an elite, trying to move better relationship with the Chinese, but it does have its eyes in the domestic scene. The meeting, the bilateral, was an extensive one. It was one that created this kind of powerful images that shows that if these three economies, China, Russia, and India, come together, they form a very powerful association. Already they are together in the BRICS, but cementing it under a framework that is political and possibly in time becoming military is a powerful statement to the West. Modi took the opportunity to have a lot of bilateral, both some formally and informally. Here is with the Turkmenistan president, and this again is the meeting with the meeting has shown the world that the whole world has seen that the world has changed. Countries that are both militarily powerful, like Russia, and economically vibrant, like Kazakhstan, India, and China, are all in one block. The image, the map I had shown before, shows clearly where the world really is. The world is now in two poles, if nothing at all. The West have been good in advancing their continent. They were very good in forming alliances that supported each country's individual interest. But now that alliance is crumbling in the face of the new reality that is facing the world. The Shanghai Corporation Organization in Tianjin is a watershed moment. We have seen all the images, we've seen the meetings, the videos. It has been all over, and it has been discussed extensively in the West. It will obviously be viewed particularly in the White House. Why is this a bother to America? China is now the country that is leading the world in innovation. China is not only an economic peer to America, it is also a rival militarily, maybe just a little bit less, but one thing is clear, they are innovating. The domains that China occupies are domains that you don't even find the Americans. High-speed rail, energy. China produces so much energy, and this energy is very critical in development of the world. Well, if the West was particularly advanced than every other country, it had everything to do with the fact that they were the first to harness energy, first as steam energy, later on as electricity, then hydroelectric energy, then they got into using internal combustion engines, and that gave them the need for oil. Oil now, for the last 100 years, redefined how affected and redefined geopolitics. The discovery of oil as a facilitator of hydrocarbon, of locomotive industries and all automotive industries and all the industries that shaped the 21st century, made oil the center of geopolitical decision taking. But the Chinese have moved away from it. Nuclear technology, they lead. Even in hydrocarbon, they lead. They lead in so many domains. We don't want to add drone. They are now economic leaders as regards to the fact that they are the #1 trading partners with 126 countries in the world, including the ASEAN countries and almost individually most of the countries of the European Union. When you add the countries of the European Union as an entity collectively, America still remains their #1 trading partner. But that may just be due to the fact that America supplies the whole of EU with arms, very expensive arms. So the center of the world has changed. The orbit of it is no more singularly within the American framework. It is now shared. We are now in the age of the bipolar world, if not the tripolar world. A lot of people may want to undermine the Russians and say they are not of consequence. But we have seen that this war in Ukraine has also shown that Russia is a powerful military force. They may have had the Chinese help them in staving off all attempts to destroy their economy, but all the work being done in the battles in Bakhmut, in Nadievka, in all the cities that they have conquered in Donetsk and in Lugansk were done by Russian soldiers using Russian arms and Russian technology. Now drones have redefined that war, and that's where the Chinese are preeminent. They are the most number one manufacturers of all the controls and all the components and all the supply chains of drones. We know a company called DJI. They are the leaders. And the military industrial complex of China is vast. Now, China sells arms to almost all the parts of the world without precondition, and that's a very big thing for them. So, having China and Russia, which is a military force, and then India, which is an economic force, in this three-legged association, India may be lagging behind, but India is still a force. We know that India is a force, a very potent force. Everybody knows that India is a giant waiting to awaken. Their own growth rate now is approaching the growth rate that China used to have. Those growth rates are eye-popping growth rate of 8%, 9%. That's where India is now. But still, India knows that it is in their interest to collaborate with China, because even if they have had political problems, their economy has not, their trade has not reduced. Their trade has rather increased over the past years, because as the king of the supply chains, any country that calls itself a manufacturing hub or wants to do any form of manufacturing will ultimately end up in China. It is in China you get the primary products that help you build the manufactured products that you sell to either your domestic market or you export. So trade between India and China, despite the political tensions between them, had actually been increasing, and it was $130 billion, heavily weighted in favor of the Chinese. But better collaboration will mean that the Chinese may now want to start building things. There will be better cross trade. There will be more open market. And one of the first wins of this meeting is that for the first time in 5 years, they will be having flights between their countries. That was how bad that economic problem, that tension, that border problem was. It was seized on by the media and that played to the sensitivities of the Indian domestic populace, and it created such a cleavage that led to the banning of Indian apps like TikTok, and Xiaomi was chased away from the country despite the fact that they have a big manufacturing. So Chinese manufacture in India was shut down, and there was a big antagonism towards Indian Chinese foreign direct investment in India. That may reverse. Besides that, we all know that the Chinese are huge visitors to countries. They have a huge horde of tourists that when they visit your country, they're like weaver birds. They descend on your country and leave quite a lot of pickings for traders and hotels and both the retail and the hospitality business. That's why they are sought after in Taiwan. They are sought after in Australia. They are sought after in Thailand and all the countries of Southeast Asia, because the tourists of China bring a lot of goodies to their economy. Maybe also they too, the Indians have Taj Mahal. They have all these they are both ancient countries with a lot of history. And the Chinese these days are going around the world, and they're getting to be appreciative of the different cultures across the world. because now they don't need to go to France and Paris to buy Prada, and Prada sells more products in China than even in their Paris, and they don't go to the places they are not welcomed. So this is a clear statement that the world has changed. Pashinyan, Alieyev, Erdoghan, all those countries, all those players that are part of the changing geopolitics that we see now, they have had very important opportunity to meet with the countries that are in the opposite side of their chess game. And that is where Putin, who has had been at the receiving end of geopolitical actions taken all over by the British, the French, the Europeans, all against him, using these countries that have this satisfaction with Russia, countries like Turkey, countries like Armenia, they had an opportunity to interact. Countries, particularly Azerbaijan, I sought and scoured through the internet to see if I could find pictures of Putin having a bilateral or a meet or a face-to-face with Alieyev, because we know that the recent events that took place between Iran and Israel had a lot of support from the Azerbaijanis. I also tried to see if I could see pictures of Iran and Alieyev. Iranian President Raisi, who died, he went to visit Alieyev, and it was after his visit to Azerbaijan on his way back that he was killed. We feel, particularly quite a lot of people feel that because after Operation Spiderweb in Ukraine and the operation against Iran, it got to be clear now that Azerbaijani, what they call gangs, they call them gangs, but what they were very available and amenable to being used by the Mossad, the Israeli Mossad. So these players and these actors in the whole geopolitical chess games are actually in one location meeting each other. And we really don't know how ultimately body language will mean, or appeals and personal discussions will create new tensions or even new understandings. Because recently, Russia has stepped up, and in their own way of showing anger against Aliyev has been that they've been blowing up all the refineries that the Azerbaijanis have in Ukraine. They're blowing them up, blown up the personal refinery and that the depots that is owned by the Azerbaijani oil company, Soko. So this is a great opportunity beyond the optics and the visuals and all that we have seen, that yes, truly, China is the orbit of the East now. It's the reality. A lot of people may not know this, but there was a time that China considered themselves the center of the world. And for that reason, they were a little bit arrogant and fell behind technological development because they weren't opening, they were close to the world, and every other person came to meet them. They didn't feel the need to go out. In fact, there was a big expedition then. They had big ships and even toured the world long before the British and the French and the Europeans visited them. Shangai was a great Chinese admiral who had great understanding, maritime understanding, and great maritime assets. But the Chinese, because of their view that they were the center of the world, did not really do anything to them. And eventually, they fell behind. When the British and the French and the Europeans came, they just fell behind technologically. Now, 200, 300 years, they are the center of technological innovations. The arms they have, the ships they have, the planes, they alone have the capacity, if they want to and if they need to, they can build a lot of aircraft carriers, if that is even an important asset to own these days in modern warfare. The aircraft carriers that America has, they know they cannot bring it very close or near the Strait of Taiwan if they have a conflict with China, because the missiles, hypersonic missiles that the Chinese have these days, can do harm from a distance. We saw what missiles did to Israel from Iran. They rained down on on Israel, and they devastated Israel, even though the Iranians didn't have the kind of weaponry like the F-35 and the kind of planes that the Israelis had. And the Israelis still didn't dare near the Iranians because they knew that the Iranians had, no matter how bad their air defense was, it was still potent enough to disturb them. So it's not possible that Americans can go too close using aircraft carriers, possibly submarines. That's where America's strength is. They have this Ohio class and the big submarines that can be a threat. But yet, we continue to hear that the technologies that the Chinese are developing, they've even developed technologies to make stealth fighters to be vulnerable. They also believe that they have technologies now that can track down American submarines. We read about all these innovations now and then. They are usually research papers, and whether they have weapon systems that have done that, we won't know. But the fact is that Chinese have the kind of military technology that should make the Americans wary. And in a standoff, it may not be as the world sees it. China is not looking for a war. They've always said they don't want a war. They feel that someday Taiwan, which is the sticking point and the point by which the West is trying to probe them into a war, they feel that trade and cultural integration will ultimately bring Taiwan back into the Chinese fold. They will wait. They tend to wait. The world has seen a big change in the dynamics. We are now in the world-to-world, multipolar moment, and the poles that stand against the American and Western pole is the Chinese, the Russians, and possibly the Indians. This is where I end my video for the moment, for the day. If you have any views regarding the opinions I've expressed in this video, please put them in the comment section. If you think that the world really hasn't changed, this is just optics and America is still powerful, Germany can still do what they did, the British can still impose opium on the Chinese, all this is just optics. Whatever opinion you have, please put them in the comment section. Do well to like and share. Until I see you in my next video. Goodbye.